Hey guys, what's happening? Hope you're doing well and staying safe out there. Thanks for tuning in, coming back and watching. This is another video. This is video number 4 or episode number 4 in my isolation editing challenge. Just trying to give you some ideas, things you can work on, things to experiment with, maybe some creative ideas to use while we are all sort of sequestered in our homes. So this one, I'm going to be doing florals. So let me just hop into it. I have a shot here, if I could open it. And this is just a dandelion that I shot like in the backyard. I did not shoot this recently. I shot this quite a long time ago, in fact. But it's spring. Flowers are blooming, at least in some parts of the world. They're not really blooming in my yard because I haven't planted any. But I do have a couple of photos here I'm going to show you that were taken in the backyard. This is one of them. So I laid on the ground. I got as close as I could with my lens. I do not have a macro lens. This is a time when I kind of wish I did, but I don't have a macro lens. But regardless, I was able to get a fairly crisp photo, no wind blowing, thankfully, of this like dandelion. So what I wanted to do is just kind of work through 2 different examples of florals and try to give you some ideas, things you can experiment with. This one I like quite a bit, and I really like that the soft background is blurred out, and I really like the detail here in the stem and sort of the base of the dandelion. But the background's kind of boring, so I'm going to start by changing that out. So what I'm going to do is go to Creative tab, and I'm going to go get a texture overlay, and I'm going to say Load Texture. And here we go. I'm in this Bisbee texture collection, which I bought from a photographer named Ann McKinnell. I'll try to remember to put a link down below. It's a wonderful texture pack. It's a bunch of stuff that looks like this. So I'm going to start with this texture, and I'm going to say Open, and I'm using the Texture Overlay filter. And as you can see, it lays it on pretty thick, as they say. But I like all the splotchy paint, kind of pastel colored, kind of watercolor look, whatever you want to call it. But I'm going to change the blend mode. So I'm going to go down here to Overlay and do something like that. And then I'm going to pull the opacity down a little bit to like maybe 32. And I think, I already like what I have. So just starting with the original and going to that, I've basically replaced the background, and that's what the overlay does a great job of, is kind of, it doesn't really mess up my core subject, which is of course the dandelion, but it's a great texture for the background. So having done that, I'm now going to pop over to the Essentials tab over here, click on the Light tool, and this is where I'm going to come in, and I don't really know what I'm going to do here, to be honest. I'm kind of experimenting, so maybe a little bit of contrast. I think I'll take down highlights. Yeah, I don't want to lose all the detail that exists there. I don't want to lose that, and I'm going to put on the shadows a little bit as well, maybe about like that. So let me show you the before and the after. One more time, let me do that before and after. Now, having done that, I like what I have. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get another texture. So that's something that I've done a number of times is, you know, you may add a texture to a photo and you think, okay, great, I got a texture and I like it. But sometimes I add a second texture just to kind of give it a little bit more kick, if you will. So I'm going to say plus, add new adjustment layer. I'm going to go back to the Creative tab, and I'm going to go back to Texture Overlay and say Load Texture. And this time, I'm going to get this other texture, the Bisbee 7, same collection. And I'm going to say Open and drop it in there as well, just like I did last time. And this time, I'm once again going to say Overlay, something about like that. And I am going to take the opacity down to like 20, 25, something like that. I think about like that. So let me show you this before and after with this texture. So let me turn that off. There's the before, a bit more muted, right? And after, quite a bit less muted, a little bit more intense, which I kind of like. Now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put on the highlights a little bit. Something about like that. I don't want to lose all that definition, as I said. And here I might actually come in with a detail enhancer and maybe add a little bit of small and medium detail into the flower itself. So I'm going to say brush, and I'm just going to paint that in here, just kind of like this, just kind of roughly. I mean, you know, this is art. We're just kind of having fun. So I'm not trying to make it perfect because, you know, there's really no such thing. There you go. Maybe a little tighter, something about like that. I think that looks fine. And I'm going to say done. And that's really it for this photo. Let me show you the before. Simple dandelion in my backyard. Really not much to it. And after, a bit more of an interesting subject, if you will. In fact, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to go to color. I'm going to go to blue. I'm going to take the saturation of the blue down. I feel like there's a little bit of blue kind of getting into the white part, whatever you call that. I was going to say the dandelion, but into the dandelion parts. I'm going to come in here and paint this in because there's also some blue in other parts of the photo, and I don't really want to lose that. So I'm just going to lose the blue kind of that's here in the dandelion head. I don't know what you call it. So something about like that. It's minor, but I feel like I could tell. Let me turn that off. There's before and there's after. It's a little bit brighter, a little bit crisper. And that's really it. That's idea number one. So there's before. And like I said, fairly simple, straightforward. I mean, kind of boring composition, but you know, I like the photo because I was lucky enough, even shooting handheld, to get it fairly crisp, if you will. And after a little bit more artistic interpretation, let me get my photo number 2 and we'll jump into that. Okay, and here is photo number 2, just a rose that was in my backyard. This was from a few years ago as well. It was hanging sort of bent over like that, and it had rained that morning, and I just happened to be out in the backyard, and I saw all these little drops here, and I just thought they were so cool, right? So I grabbed the camera, took a photo. So here's what I'm going to do here. Very simple edit. Really, sometimes when you have a photo that, you know, to me, it's kind of beautiful already. I'm not trying to compliment my photo taking skills. I'm just kind of saying, like, naturally occurring, that color looks really cool with the raindrops on it. I just think it's really pretty. So you don't necessarily have to do a lot. I am going to add some contrast. It's going to, I think, help it pop a little bit from the background, which I think is nice. And then I'm going to go get some details, and I'm going to pull up the medium and the small details like that to really make it pop. But I don't want to add detail in a lot of other places, so I'm going to say Edit Mask. I'm going to get a Radial Mask. And a Radial Mask just lets you draw kind of a circular shape. And I'm doing that right now, as you can see. And I've got videos about Radial Mask if you're not familiar with them. But I'm just trying to get this thing looking a little bit better. Let me just continue kind of playing with this. But what's happened is the Radial Mask applies to the stuff outside the mask. So you got to come up here and say invert. And now the mask is, or you know, the effect is being applied inside the circle. So you can see that's crisped up really nice. And the outside has had that detail removed. So let me show you the before. There it is, a little bit softer, quite a bit less crisp there, especially if you're looking here at the center of the photo. And after, there it is, quite a bit more detailed, which I think is nice. It brings up some of these little vein looking sort of that texture in the flower, which I think looks really cool. And I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to say brush. I'm going to go get the mask again, and I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to say copying that mask. And the next thing I want to do, and not black and white, one of the things I like to do is, even though the background's pretty blurred, I shot this at, this is f5.6, so it's, you know, it's fairly good focus there on the flower, fairly blurred in the background, but I actually want to blur it more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do AI structure and go negative and just create even more blur like that. I'm just accentuating the blur there. Now, that's currently applying to the entire photo. So I'm going to say edit mask. I'm going to go to brush, and I'm going to say paste because I copied that Radial Mask. There it is, paste. And what I've done is just basically applied the Radial Mask from the previous filter onto this filter. Now, if I show you the mask, I can click on that. You can see that that is applying there, but once again, it's backwards. So I'm going to say mask, invert, and there we go. I'm going to say done. And what I've done is I've kept that really crisp center part, and I've added additional blur to the outside. So if you look at like these areas kind of in the corners, let me turn that off. There's before and there's after. It's not a massive deal. You can see it up here kind of in the stem and things like that. But it's just an idea to help you maybe more isolate your subject. In this case, a Radial Mask worked pretty well because it was kind of a oval sort of shape here around the center of the flower that I really wanted to focus on, and I wanted to get rid of the other stuff. So I've applied that AI structure negatively. I could do the same thing with Details Enhancer on a new layer because I've already used it on this one, or I could use AI structure again and do that again to blur it further. But it's just an idea, and I might come in and top this off with a little bit of a vignette just to give it a little bit more focus, and maybe a tiny bit of inner light just to pop that. And let me show you my before. there it is before I've done anything and after. And here is the sliding window, or whatever you call it, the before and after. You know what else I might do? I might actually come into color and take those greens down a little bit. I'm going to pull down the saturation because the green's kind of intense, and let's be honest, the pinkish kind of red color of the rose is definitely a lot more of interest than the green. And so you could even decrease the luminance. That's also going to help you further blur the background, as you can see. So you've got a lot of factors you can play with in a photo like this. But what I really wanted to do is bring up the detail in the core center of the photo and kind of soften up the details and darken kind of the outer area. So the luminance of the color green helped with that. The vignette helped with that. The details helped pop the center of the photo, and the negative AI structure with the radial mask on the outside, which was inverted, helped to further enhance kind of the blur. So I think that's probably all I would do with this photo. There it is before and after, and one more time, before and after. The other thing I think about in times like this is, you know, we're on basically a shelter-in-place order here in Austin, Texas, which means you can only leave the house for specific like needs, if you will, like going to the grocery store. So you probably cannot go to a garden shop like a Home Depot or whatever to buy flowers, but they do have flowers at the grocery store. So if you don't have any flowers in your backyard, on one of your grocery trips, maybe pick up a rose and just try it in vases, or try it laying across the piano if you have that, or on a table, or just experiment with different backgrounds and settings and just try different things and see if you can come up with something interesting. And that's all I'm trying to do, is give you guys ideas, because I'm sitting around trying to think of ideas as well. I mean, I've got a lot of photos I haven't edited from various trips, but I'm trying to focus on things that we can do here without having to go take new photos. And so I'm trying to do that and give you guys some ideas. And if you have ideas for me, leave them down below. I'd love to hear from you. And I hope you're staying safe, my friends. Hope you're doing well. And I hope you found something in this video that's helpful for you, maybe gives you some ideas that you can work on at your own home. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you soon, my friends. Have a great day. Take care, and adios.